So just to remind you of what the project looks like, it's this. It's an expandable sewing box, which you can use as a gift box, with hinged mechanism. So I'll show you everything as we go. Now this is the base. I've already stuck down the decorative panels and pre-scored all of the lines. Then we have the handle, which comes in two parts that you'll stick back to back, but you'll leave all of the flaps at the sides and the bottoms open. Then we have tier 1, which is basically made up of 2 drawers with a divider. Again, I've gone ahead and stuck the decorative panels on, and there's 2 of those. Then tier 2, which basically has the drawer, and then 2 little pieces that basically form a little catchment for the lid and help it form a little deeper recess. Again, decorative panels already applied, score lines already scored and folded, and there's 2 of those. Now there are some little hingy mechanisms which I'll show you later, but first I'm going to get you to measure halfway across the sides, so basically a 4-inch mark because this is 8 inches wide. And then you're going to draw pencil marks past the dashed score line on each side, just as I've done there. Then we're going to apply glue to the outside large flaps, fold them over and stick them down. This is basically to reinforce the cardstock, and this is why I tend to use 180 GSM cardstock rather than 250, although you can get away with up to 210 GSM, so that's 80 pound paper, cardstock, sorry. And this really just gives it more stability as well, so it stops it kind of curling and twisting. Now for the handle, we're going to apply glue to the base flaps, and then we're going to stick that in position using our pencil marks as an alignment guide. So your side flaps should basically line up with those pencil marks. Make sure that's fully stuck down before you move on. Then we're going to basically fold the side flaps back, apply glue to them, and then we're going to push the side of the base up, making sure it's still in alignment, and then peg it in place. Use whatever clips you've got available, or you can sit there and hold it if you've got all the time in the world. It's up to you. You could always daydream about something, winning the lottery maybe. And then basically the same for the other side. Doing it this way makes it a lot easier than forming the base first and then trying to insert the handle, on the basis that you don't end up with glue smudging out the sides everywhere, hopefully. Now I'm just applying glue to both side tabs and making sure they're on the inside of the base. Stick them in place, and then again just peg or clip or paper clip, whatever you've got available. And that's basically just to hold them in place longer than you can really just holding it in place with your fingers, and avoiding the risk of getting bored and this taking forever. Same again for the other end. And that will basically form your entire base section. And you can see you've got basically a 4-inch by 4-inch by 1.5-inch deep pocket drawer on either side. These were the mechanisms that I was referring to earlier. You'll have a ton of these when you cut them out, but basically you're going to put 4 together, glue them, stack them on top of each other and glue them together so that you end up with 4 of each size. Now you're going to grab your brads, so they're split leg brads. You're going to take one of the long ones and make sure that the hole that is furthest away from the other 2 goes at the bottom, and it goes at the furthest right hole towards the right hand side of the box, just as you're seeing me doing. Poke it through and then fold back the legs. Just make sure there's still a little bit of movement. Then take the medium-sized struts, I'll call them that from now on, and pop it in the second hole. Mirror this on the other side so that you have the tallest one on the left and the medium-sized on the right, making sure that with the tall ones, the 2 holes that are closest together are the 2 that are facing upwards. You'll probably get a better view when you actually do it yourself that you've got 2 holes slightly more to one side. Okay, so there's our base and struts in place. Next up, we're going to tackle the Tier 1 section. So with this, you'll apply glue as I've shown you there, and then again stick this down. This is going to act as a divider in the drawer. Works very much in the same way as the handle, so we do need to make some markings on our base. Mark the halfway point on the two non-hole sides, and then draw a line out towards the edge. Repeat that on the reverse across the centre section. Then, as we did for the base, we're going to glue the large flaps over on themselves, again to add structure and stability to each of those drawers. And you'll see that when we fold those side bits together, those pencil lines that we made should line up. One last flap. And there we go. Again, as per the base, we're going to stick this divider in before we pull the sides together. So glue the base of that divider and use those pencil lines as an alignment guide. And that's why I tend to use glue for this, just purely because it gives me a little bit of wiggle time, whereas tape might not. Okay, again, glue the sides of that divider, push up the sides of the drawer to meet it, and then again, peg in place if you can. Or if you prefer, just hold it. If you've got a very quick tack glue, just holding it might actually work. Another reason I've used pegs in this instance is because I'm fiddling with the bits so much that there is the risk that they can ping out of place. Again, applying glue to the two end tabs and bringing those sides up to meet each other and pegging in place. Same again for the other end. And then basically you would repeat that for the second set of cut files for this particular section or tier. So you'll end up with two drawers with dividers and holes down the side. Next up for tier 2, there is basically a lid and a drawer, or let's call it a drawer, in one piece here. So basically I'm starting to use those side flaps as I've done before for the base and tier 1. But you'll see that I'm only doing it for 3 sides on what I'll call the base or the drawer, which is the part with the holes in. And then 3 sides for the lid, which is the side that doesn't have any holes in the side flaps. Again, folding these bits over is for structure and stability to help prevent it from twisting and warping. Okay, next up I'm going to start by gluing some of the tabs together. For this one I'm gluing the front, yes it would be the front of the drawer section together. Then the back of the drawer section, so this gets a little bit fiddly at this point because we have the hinge that basically joins the drawer to the lid. If you find it a bit fiddly, you might find it useful to peg the actual hinge open. And then when it comes to the lid, I start again at the front, or the furthest most out point. That's not even a sentence, is it? Yes, the front. We'll call it that. And stick those tabs together. Then just make sure the tabs for the other part or other end of the lid are within the cavity of the lid, and again clip those in place. And once you've done this for the first one, again it will be exactly the same for the second one. So you'll end up with 2 of those. Time to take out all those pegs, and basically we're going to slot in these 2 reinforcement pieces that will help keep the lid closed, and also add some structure to the top because it doesn't have one of those dividers. Start by gluing one of the pieces to the front area of the drawer, and that will be the piece that has the 2 holes, or 1 hole either end. When you come to cut these files out, I made a small change to these 2 pieces, and the second part that you'll glue in has basically cut out notches rather than holes. And that's because basically of where the holes line up. When I actually test built this, as I'm doing here, I did get these second set of holes in the wrong place. So I had to go back and correct that for you. And then basically gluing that all around. And again, you would go ahead and do exactly the same for the second drawer. Now we have our pieces. So we've got tier 2, which is the lid and drawer. We've got tier 1, which is the 2 drawers with the dividers. And then we've got the base that we created at the start of this video. Now we should still have 4 of those little struts left. But first what we're going to do is position our struts at an angle so that our first 2 struts meet up with the first 2 holes of tier 1. Pop the brads through and open out those legs. You're not looking for a super tight fit. You want something close fitting so that it doesn't just wobble around all over the place, but you also want some free movement as well. Now we're going to position the smallest strut in position in the remaining hole, and then basically repeat this 3 more times around the base using tier 2. When it comes to the other side, obviously you're basically mirroring what you've done on this side. So all of the struts will point in towards the handle, as you see here. Another short one in. There you go. So essentially with these struts, there are always at least 2 connection points on each level. But hopefully visually you can see better just watching this video really. Now for the drawer, obviously you're going to need to open up the lid. If it helps, clip it open. But essentially you are lining up the 2 holes, putting brads through the 2 struts and the holes, and opening out the legs on the brads. Excuse me. And when you close the lid, that side will completely close up like that. Now we again mirror this on the other side, so the lid opens outwards away from the handle. And again, just feeding those brads through the holes and through the struts and opening out the legs. 2 more to go. And then we can open out and close that. And that is the basic box completed. I've created these floral embellishments from a range of things. So I've used die cuts, I used some of the cut, draw and more florals that I shared the other week, and also a couple of large pre-die cut shapes as well. Use whatever you've got available, decorate it in whatever way you want. This was just really a serving suggestion. And there we go. There's your 3D sewing box, gift box, or whatever you want to use it for box.